The roar inside Milan did not come from a stadium, nor from the familiar echo of a concert crowd. It came from the heart of one of the world's most exclusive runways, where Jin of BTS emerged and shattered every expectation. How could a single appearance at Milan Fashion Show redefine the definition of elegance and global influence in a matter of minutes? And why did his presence silence an audience accustomed to being dazzled by the greatest icons of fashion? The answers lie in the unforgettable scene that unfolded when Jin stepped into the spotlight, embodying not just the essence of luxury, but the living proof that artistry can transcend industries and continents. Jin's arrival in Milan was not simply a celebrity cameo. It was an event that felt carefully calculated to shift attention and remind the world that fashion is no longer confined to designers and supermodels alone. In an era where global culture is increasingly shaped by music, cinema, and digital presence, Jin's presence marked the collision of these forces in the most visible of stages. The energy in the venue was electric before he even appeared, with whispers running through the crowd, cameras already raised, and journalists sharpening their pens, knowing that the night would belong to him. But even those who anticipated his dominance were not prepared for the magnitude of his impact. The instant Jin walked onto the runway, the atmosphere changed. His posture, impeccably upright, commanding without force, exuded a confidence that needed no embellishment. His tailored ensemble, refined to perfection, carried the precision of Milanese craftsmanship, yet it was Jin himself who made the clothes iconic rather than the other way around. The fashion show, typically designed to highlight garments, suddenly became a showcase of human presence. Every detail of his appearance, from the subtle expression on his face to the measured rhythm of his steps, seemed orchestrated not for spectacle, but for authority. The audience was no longer watching a collection. They were witnessing a phenomenon. Why did Jin's Milan Fashion Show appearance create such a seismic shift in perception? It was not simply about fashion. His presence embodied a larger story: the rise of South Korean artistry as a central force in the global cultural arena. Jin did not need to shout, perform, or sing. His silent confidence spoke louder than any performance. For a city steeped in centuries of fashion history, Milan is rarely caught off guard. Yet, on this night, it was unmistakable. The city itself paused to absorb the gravity of a new chapter being written. Observers described the reaction as immediate and visceral. Phones were lifted high, but many forgot to even press record, too mesmerized by the rarity of the moment. Critics accustomed to analyzing fabric, silhouette, and technical tailoring found themselves instead dissecting Jin's aura, attempting to quantify a presence that defied typical categories. Could charisma alone eclipse the work of the greatest designers? The answer, as proven in Milan, was yes, if the individual standing before them was Jin. Fashion journalists across Europe, Asia, and America who had gathered for the event were faced with a unique challenge: how to frame the phenomenon without sounding exaggerated. Yet exaggeration was unnecessary when reality itself exceeded description. One Italian critic was overheard remarking, "This is not about a collection. This is about an era." That statement, whispered in the crowd, captured the essence of what Jin delivered: a performance not of music, but of stature. He did not blend into the show. He redefined IT. IT is important to understand that Milan Fashion Show has always celebrated exclusivity, artistry, and legacy. For Jin to dominate this space is not simply about celebrity visibility. It is about legitimacy. He was not treated as an outsider granted access for publicity. He was treated as a centerpiece, a focal point as legitimate as the fashion houses themselves. The applause that erupted after his walk was not routine courtesy. It was recognition. Recognition that he had elevated the event into something greater than a runway showcase. recognition that his global influence had crossed into a domain where few musicians have ever been welcomed. What makes Jin's presence in Milan even more extraordinary is the cultural weight it carries for millions watching beyond the venue. For armies around the world, his appearance was more than fashion, it was representation. Seeing him command a stage dominated by European luxury was proof of how far their support has carried him. It was not lost on them that the man who once stood before stadiums now stood as an icon in Milan, commanding reverence in silence. The symbolism resonated deeply. Artistry knows no borders, and influence cannot be contained. The atmosphere outside the venue mirrored the intensity inside. Crowds gathered hours before the show, lining the streets, their chants echoing against the stone walls of the city. Jin. Jin was not simply a cheer, it was an announcement to Milan that its fashion capital had a new sovereign, at least for the night. Even seasoned security personnel found themselves struggling to contain the masses, who refused to leave until they caught even a glimpse of him. The chaos outside only amplified the drama inside, as if the entire city had surrendered to the spectacle. The element of surprise further magnified the impact. His participation had not been widely publicized in advance, leading many to question. Was this deliberate? Was Milan Fashion Show seeking not just a highlight, but a headline that would reverberate globally? If so, it was a strategy executed with flawless precision. Jin's appearance guaranteed coverage not only in fashion magazines, but in international news outlets, across social media platforms, and within cultural discourse at large. The convergence of music, fashion, and global influence was complete, and Jin stood at the center of it. But beyond strategy, beyond the orchestrated allure of secrecy, there was something undeniably human in Jin's performance. His expression carried both determination and subtle vulnerability. While his walk commanded power, his eyes reflected sincerity. It was this balance, the ability to project strength while remaining approachable, that transformed his appearance into more than fashion. It became a statement about authenticity, proving that charisma rooted in truth is far more powerful than spectacle alone. As the show concluded, the conversation did not fade. Instead, it intensified. Journalists rushed to file their reports, fashion insiders debated in hushed tones, and fans online flooded timelines with images and reactions. The consensus was clear. Milan had witnessed not just a fashion moment, but a cultural turning point. Jin had not borrowed the stage, he had owned it. And in doing so, he reminded the world that influence is no longer dictated solely by industry hierarchies. Influence belongs to those who command it, and Jin's command was absolute. This dominance in Milan now raises further questions. What does this mean for the intersection of K-pop and global fashion? How will future shows respond to the precedent he has set? And most importantly, what does this say about Jin's trajectory, not as a member of BTS alone, but as a standalone